We are very pleased to have Miss Leontyne Price with us this evening. We have been hoping and anxious to have her on the program for a long time, and at last we're here. Welcome to Opera for You, Miss Price.
Thank you very much for having me, Mr. Wells.
I understand that, like so many opera singers, you plan to become a teacher of music and later switched into a vocal career. Is this true?
That's right. I graduated from Central State College in Wilberforce, Ohio, with a teacher's degree in music education, and I was afforded a financial opportunity uh, by scholarship and also financial aid from a wonderful family in my hometown in Laura, Mississippi. So I was fortunate enough to come to Juilliard to study, and that's when things began to happen for me. But I still have the degree. One never knows what will happen.
I was rather surprised to learn that while you were at Juilliard, you sang the part of Mistress Ford in Verdi's Falstaff. And I had often thought, like so many other people, that your movement into opera was a later decision. And I wonder if you can tell me, did you always plan to become an opera singer? Was this a planned, conscious move, or was it the result of circumstances?
Wasn't really a planned one, but it has always been my major ambition. Um, I'm one of those typical American singers who've been forced to be versatile, and also one of the lucky ones who've been fortunate enough in the last 3 years to launch an important operatic career. My technical introduction to opera, I like to think, was the opportunity afforded me by Mr. Cohen at Juilliard to do the role of Mistress Ford in Falstaff in 1951. And from that, I started into professional work. Um, Four Saints in Three Acts of Virgil Thompson and other things that happened to me, Porgy and Bess later, and then on to NBC, which is technically my professional introduction to opera. I've always wanted to be an operatic singer, and I can't tell you how thrilled that this thing seems to be opening up for me.
Before we go into Tosca, which brought you to the attention of so many people, I would like to ask you about Porgy and Bess, with which you have been so long identified. And I wonder, how do you classify Porgy and Bess as a work of art?
I classify it definitely simply as an opera. It was an opera to me. It has all the charm, all the grandeur, and all the emotion of a good story that most operas have. And I enjoyed my experience there, and it was my introduction to real, my operatic introduction to performing an opera for audiences. Myself, I don't know how a lot of people feel about it, but I think it's decidedly an opera.
And of course, it has the virtue of having been performed both on Broadway as a musical comedy, and at the same time, it's one of the few musical comedy works that have been performed in opera houses, too. So I think it depends on the viewpoint of the singers who are performing the work. Can you tell us what immediate effect Tosca had on your career? I think this was in 1955, wasn't it?
That's correct, Mr. Wells. The role of Tosca at NBC for me was definitely the professional beginning of my operatic career. Um, I enjoyed the experience. It was, I think, one of the greatest thrills of my life. And I think that the fact that my first opera was done in English was an added exciting thing, because from letters received afterwards, I realized that what I was doing, which is the thing that I think most opera singers like to feel that they've done, was to really be understood. And I enjoyed the experience tremendously. It is technically my first professional operatic performance.
And since that time, you have gone on to do two additional works on the NBC television opera.
Yes, I have. I like to think of NBC as my alma mater, my operatic alma mater. In 1955, I did the role of Tosca. The second year, which was 1956, I did, during the Mozart Centennial, the role of Pamina in their production of The Magic Flute. The following year, I did the role of the Second Prieur for the production of the Dialogues of the Carmelites by Francis Poulenc. And as of last week, I'm happy to report that I'll be back with my alma mater April 10th of this year, doing the role of Donna Anna in a production of Don Giovanni with Mr. Cesare Siepi as Don Giovanni, and this production will be in English, which we're all very excited about it.
I can't tell you how pleased that news makes me because I had been hoping that and afraid that now that you were really an international star, you might be lost to the NBC Television Opera Company.
Never. As I said, and I repeat again, it's definitely my operatic alma mater. It's like going back home, really.
Well, it's very good because this will certainly make your name much more of a household commodity than appearances which are limited to the concert stage or the opera house. The impact of television certainly is tremendous, and it's not afforded to many singers.
No, it isn't, and I take great pride in being a part of a movement which actually produces and develops audience appreciation and going audiences for opera, which is a medium, an artistic medium which needs more interest, more local interest, and I think that's the thing that thrills me so much about NBC Opera. It is a medium that creates audiences for opera.
There's no doubt that that is true. Can you tell us what you were able to take from your concert training and background into the world of opera?
Main thing the reason I'm glad, as they say, I had the cart before the horse, that is, to have recital experiences first. I have had a great feel for various and sundry types of audiences. I was able to develop, I hope, a certain amount of poise on stage, a certain amount of stage presence, um, the experience generally of singing in different communities and for different people helped me to come out of my own self. And needless to say, the accumulation of various types of repertoire, French, Italian, and German, have certainly helped my languages as far as my um, uh, opera performances are concerned. A general awareness of the stage and of projection of one's personality and one's voice is what I gained in recital experiences.
Well, at the same time, what do you feel was the most difficult thing for you to achieve in opera? Because I think that coming to the world of opera, as you did at the time, already a star, not having have what we call strictly an operatic training right along, there must have been, or there might have been, perhaps there weren't, any factors which you felt were difficult to achieve in opera.
I must say, and I don't mean to sound boastful, but I've been deliciously spoiled, and I'm happy to say I'm very rather chauvinistic about it because being an American singer, I have been afforded all my opportunities, the most important ones to me, in my own country, not only as a recitalist, but now as an opera singer. And with the limited opportunities for launching an important operatic career in my own country, I feel extremely fortunate because as of next year, I will have sung in the major opera houses and now the major opera house in our country. So I have had I've had no basic problems in launching my operatic career, I'm happy to say. Contrary to a lot of singers who've had to go to Europe to launch their careers, I went to Europe for my first debut in Italy, in Verona, as a professional, hired as a professional American artist. So I don't mind beating my chest about that. I've had it very, very easy, and I hope that I won't be too spoiled by it, but I am extremely proud of this fact.
And I don't think we can say that this was luck. I think it does bespeak a very sound professional training and true artistry.
Thanks to good old Juilliard.
I want to ask you about two men who I think have had a great influence upon your career. And the first one is Samuel Barber. And of course, you have been identified with the works of Samuel Barber for some time, the Knoxville Summer of 1915, the Hermit Songs. And I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about this association.
Well, it's a wonderful association and friendship which I cherish with all my heart. I actually was introduced to Mr. Barber's music by a wonderful person. When I first came to New York, his name is Nicholas Nabokov, who's rather an important composer. And then I was introduced to Mr. Barber by my wonderful vocal teacher, Miss Florence Page Kimball. And it was at her home that he asked me to do his Hermit Songs, which I did for the first time in 1953 at the Library of Congress. And I don't know, there was just a real warmth that existed between us, and there's been a wonderful friendship ever since. I think I know every song that Mr. Barber has written for the voice to date. I'm very proud of this fact, and I almost never give a program without at least a group of his songs on it.
What about Vanessa now that you are going to the Metropolitan where Vanessa, I'm sure, will be coming back to the repertory? Do you have any plans to perform this opera? Do you know the music?
Not all of it to date, but anything he writes, I like. I don't know if I will ever do the part of Vanessa. I love Mr. Barber's music so much, I can't say that I wouldn't like to. But I really met his Vanessa this year. I had the opportunity of performing with one of the most wonderful people I've ever met and the most wonderful artist, Zena Urinak, who was Donna Anna to my when I was Donna Elvira this past season in San Francisco, also one of my operatic alma maters. And I can understand why Mr. Barber wrote this opera. She is Vanessa. She's perfect.
Well, that means we have three Vanessas now, then, because we have Eleanor Steber, Zena Urinak, and maybe one day Leontyne Price.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. I think they are most wonderful, both of them, Madame Steve and Madame Urina.
The other gentleman with whom your name has frequently been associated musically is Herbert von Karajan. And I wonder if you can tell us what part he played in your career.
To date, he's played one of the most powerful and most wonderful parts in my career because I like to think of myself, as he says sometimes, as one of his proteges. I auditioned through my personal director at Columbia, Mr. Andre Mertens, to whom I owe this association with Mr. von Karajan, during his lunch hour about 4 years ago in Carnegie Hall while he was eating a sandwich. And I sang two arias for him. And as soon as he went back to Europe, he asked Mr. Mertens if I was available for performances in Salome, I think, which frightened me instead of thrilling me, and I had to turn down. But later he had an offer for Aida 2 years later at the Staatsoper, where since then I've made my debut and have done many performances with him, including last year at Salzburg, the Missa Solemnis, the Verdi Requiem, and this coming year at the Neue Festspielhaus in Salzburg, the performance of Donna Anna with him in Don Giovanni. And my very first Butterfly will be with him in September at the Staatsoper.
We seem now to be mentioning many of your roles, and I wonder if you can tell us what is your operatic repertoire at present.
Now let's see, it's almost a dozen parts. Naturally, Aida, we'll start with the one with the A. Aida, the Dialogues of the Carmelites, I'll say Porgy and Bess, Tosca, the Magic Flute, Madame Butterfly, Leonora Trovatore, Leo in Turandot, let's see, Donna Elvira and Donna Anna in Don Giovanni, and last year in Chicago, Thais.
Now that you've mentioned Thais, I wonder if you can defend the claim that Thais is a very dull, boring opera.
It isn't that Thais is boring. It's really an extravaganza in a way, but I don't think it's the most profound music I've ever learned or performed. It does tend to fall on its face musically to me after the first part of Act Two, and it never seems to get back up to the realm of real relaxed listening or even performing.
Well, I always consider myself a Massenet fan on the basis of Manon and Werther, and then along comes Thais, and I go running back to Verdi again. So many of your big breaks have been with Aida and Trovatore, and I must mention that as Leonore in Trovatore, I think the San Francisco paper said that you were the one link with Muzio and Elizabeth Rethberg, which I think is in very excellent company. And I wonder, does this mean that you plan or want to specialize in any way? We have such a direct need for a Verdian soprano, and certainly you might be that great hope.
I hope to develop into an important exponent of Verdi's wonderful music. However, I think I would never like to perform in any given season without performing a Mozart opera. I have a great love for Mozart, and I think it's a great way to maintain a certain type of flexibility vocally, particularly for lyrics. And I'd like to do all sorts of things, even eventually some French repertoire. I don't have a necessary desire to specialize in any particular type of opera, but I would like never to dismiss at least one role or one character in a Mozart opera per season.
I wonder at this point if you can tell us which roles you might plan to study next. You've mentioned Madame Butterfly will be your next operatic debut, and I wonder what other roles you have in mind or would like to do.
There are two specific roles that I've coveted for quite some time that I hope I can grow into, as they say. They are Amelia in the Mass Ball and Simon Boccanegra. And I think that's quite a handful. I like these two roles very much. And also Manolesco possibly someday.
I'm going to mention a few other roles which I think critics have commented upon. Paul Hume in the Washington Post, after hearing your Strauss leader, said that he felt you would be a great Marshallin. I happen to have heard you sing Depuis le Jour, and I have been waiting for a revival of Louise for a long time. And I also know that when you gave a concert in Washington, you sang In Questa Regia from Turandot, which is a musical of Turandot. And I think somebody at that time said or compared you to Rosa Raiza and wondered if you would be taking on this part. And I know you frequently sing La Mama Morta from Andrea Chenier. Are any of these possibilities?
These are ambitious attempts with piano, and only that, my dear. I would never try to do the role of Turandot. I think it's even ambitious to try it with piano, but one does run out of arias, big enough ones to impress on the recital program. And since I have practically a traveling orchestra in David Garvey, who's been with me for such a long time, I dare many, many things. But I would never try these roles in real life because they are definitely not for me.
Before we ask you about some of your future plans and recordings, I want to ask you about one other piece of music which many people have said Leontyne Price is a voice, and that piece is the Verdi Requiem.
This is to me a special, special work. I think I would never turn down any performances that I could do of the Verdi Requiem. It's very special to me. It's a highly poignant and uh, wonderful thing to do. I love it very, very much. It's one of the most wonderful things I've ever learned and ever performed.
I feel pretty much the same way you do. I have never listened to a performance of the Requiem without having to sit for about 5 minutes after the piece was over, being in complete communication with the music and being not immediately able to return back to what I was doing. And I hope that RCA Victor has you in mind for a future recording of this work. And now, in conclusion, I wonder if you can tell us something about your two operatic recordings and also some of your performing plans for the future.
Yes, well, to date, right, I think in November there was a release on my recital record, and last summer I made two recordings for RCA Victor. The first in Vienna was the performance of Donna Elvira in Don Giovanni with a wonderful cast: Cesare Siepi as Don Giovanni, Cesare Valetti as Ottavia, Correna, Leporello, and Ratti as Zerlina, and with the baton of Maestro Erich Leinsdorf. And later in Rome, I made my first recording of Trovatore, the role of Leonora, also with a wonderful cast. Rosalind Elias as Azucena, Leonard Waring, Count de Luna, and Richard Tucker as Manrico, and under the baton of Arturo Basile. This summer, I will do a recording of Il Tabarro, Puccini, for RCA Victor, and will make my debut at La Scala in May, later to Salzburg, where I will do in the new Festspielhaus the performance of Donna Anna in Don Giovanni. And as I said, on to the Staatsoper to do my first Madame Butterfly this year.
It certainly is a very busy schedule and also a very exciting one. We are all thrilled by your progress, and I can tell you that most of us will be there in December, I think it is, when you make your debut at the Metropolitan. Thank you, Ms. Price.
Thank you very much. This is I think, the crown for all I've done. I'm very, very happy about being with the Metropolitan. Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Wells. Goodbye.